Resident Evil 4.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Resident Evil 4 professional no damage run. So we're in the second part of 3-2. I just got the gallery key off that monk in the robes, which is every monk you fight in this game because I don't think they ever get out of the robes, thank God. So, now that we've done that, we're going to be pushing into an area of the game that I hate. And I hate it because it reminds me of The Shining, and also it's kind of tricky. And I'm not saying, there's anything wrong with The Shining. It's just garden mazes. Ugh. There's one game that garden maze terrified me on as a kid, and that was Castlevania 64. Because the garden maze there had two dogs that chased you, and a Frankenstein with a chainsaw. So as you can imagine, it was pretty scary on its own, let alone it was really fucking challenging too. And I got my ass kicked there a lot of times. I keep wondering if I should go back, with emulators, and record that game, because that's probably one of the origins of why I like to do games on the hardest difficulties, because that game was so goddamn difficult, and I got used to being beaten up, and when you get used to being beaten up, you don't mind dying so much, and I think that's a lesson that a lot of people could do with, because nowadays games are so much like experiences rather than actual challenges, that it takes the game out of it, which I've never understood. This is another really tricky room as well. But yeah, in the film Shining, the garden maze is just a garden maze covered in snow, and obviously Jack is chasing Danny. But in the book it takes on a much more imposing, intimidating and trippy form of I can't remember the name of when people cut grass and hedges into shapes. I'm sure there's a name for it. But those bush animals come to life. Those decorative carvings actually animate, and I can't quite remember if it's because of the imagination of Danny, or if it's something to do with the supernatural elements of it. Because it's been a long time since I've read that. I'm actually rereading it. But I should really talk about this room, because this room is a nightmare. So we're using the tried and tested, if you come through this door, you're going to get some buckshot, which, isn't that the stand your ground law that they have in America? Which, I'm hoping they don't have it in all of America, because that sounds like the easiest way to murder someone you don't fucking like, and I'm sure there's been several cases of that law being exploited for the very wrong reasons, which, I mean, if you're pro-murder, why not, but I like to think there's this thing called, human decency, which should somehow protect you from shooting people who are in your house. And don't get me wrong, if they're a burglar, fuck them. But if they're not, you should at least show a little courtesy before you introduce them to the concept of a face full of lead. But what happens in this room is, you get bombarded by a ton of dudes, and then, after a while, there's going to be these rocket launcher dudes that turn up, but that's not even mentioning these assholes. On every corner of this room, there are crossbow guys, and crossbow guys make this game very difficult to no damage, because 10 to 1, you'll do a big sequence like this, and then they'll hit you, and it forces me to do these cowardly moments where I wait, and I use doors and geometries to block arrows, and I just wish there was a prompt that allowed me to dodge arrows. And the funny thing is, Shinji Mikami wanted the original Resident Evil to have a duck. He wanted you to be able to duck away from the zombies' grabs, but they just couldn't do it on the technology. So he was able to do it in this game, and I just find it kind of ironic that he finally gets the technology. Look at this, man, they're everywhere. See that guy to my right? At this point, this is just luck and bullshit that I'm not getting hit. I'm somehow stood in the perfect spot for crossbow bolts to miss. It's just horrible. But it is kind of ironic that, he manages to get this mechanic in finally thanks to the technology, and I still wish that he'd made it better. And who knows, maybe Evil Within will have something. It's just, a great example for a third-person shooter is Vanquish, man. And I know they couldn't be more different or more separated through time, but Shinji Mikami made Vanquish, he also made this. And there's a move on Vanquish where, when you dodge and you aim, you go into a slow motion shooting mode. And I'm not saying that this game could have benefited from that, but what it makes me think of what I would like is if you've ever fought the bogies on that game, the bogies come in for a melee attack, and it's very fast. It's like a 3-hit combo. But if you're good enough and you know the pattern, you can dodge through the move, go onto your knees in slow-mo, shoot them. You know, as soon as you run out of your energy for your suit, you do another roll, and then you do some roll cancelling if you want to stay alive. And you can often get, 1 or 2 rolls where you're shooting them and evading them at the same point, and it feels so empowering that this super powerful and capable enemy is coming into you, and you're just showing him up. And if you could evade freely on this game, I'm not too sure how that would negatively affect the movement, but it would just make it so much easier to do the run that I'm doing right now. And it'd probably make it a little bit more enjoyable to watch in some areas where you see me manipulating geometry and enemy tendencies, like this. This is a scary room. Anything that has a rocket launcher is scary, and I just don't understand how this room works, because they're going to turn up again when we do something. I think it's when we make the bridge to the central pedestal, and you're just kind of thinking, where did they come from? Why did they come from? And what exactly is happening? If they have the technology to have RPGs, why doesn't everybody have them? Salazar's Castle is pretty shitty, really. And again, clench your ass, hold your breath, and hope you don't get hit by the RPG-ness. And then press these buttons. And then we can do the puzzle and continue with the level. Oh, and more rocket launcher guys! Clench your ass, hold your breath, don't take damage. It is fair. The cool thing about them as well is they only get one shot. I like that. I referenced Ninja Gaiden 2 earlier in this walkthrough, and I'll say it again. In Ninja Gaiden 2, if the Incendiary Shuriken ninjas had one Incendiary Shuriken, it would be a better game. You would have those swarms of them tossing them at a distance, you would block them, or if you got hit by them, you'd probably use your, is it the wind path or the reverse wind to dash, get your iframes, and boom, it'd be you versus them in a fight, as opposed to, I'm a goddamn Christmas tree, watch me blow up every 10 minutes while I whore iframes to somehow stay alive. And it's funny, because, on those games, a lot of people think that the spamming UTs is looked down on as a technique, which I can understand why. You're invulnerable when you do them, it's very easy to do them, and it's a system which, once you land the first one, it almost facilitates the next one every time. And the scoring mechanic in those games is focused around using using ultimate techniques. And especially on the first Ninja Gaiden, the karma runs on that are all about UTs. The more UTs you can do that you can milk out of enemies, the higher your score, and it becomes almost a completely different game. And I was always a big fan of the UTs, but you'll notice in some of the circles on Ninja Gaiden, like some of the forums, they look down on them. And I always found it ironic that they look down on people who spam UTs, yet they spam, guillotine throw into obliteration techniques. They spam other techniques which give you iframes that don't kill as many enemies, and somehow they don't see the parallel between it. And I've always been the same way with those games. Play how the hell you want to play. They're hard enough as it is without restricting yourself from stuff. So I've always been a big fan of using the guillotine throw. I've always been a big fan of using the Azuna drop and using the ultimate techniques. But you just see it a lot on a lot of the better players normally. The people who do the combo videos and do the no damage stuff. No damage, no nimpo, that kind of thing. And it's just, how is it any different spamming a UT than it is spamming an iframe move? It's the same thing. And it's kind of funny that Ninja Gaiden 3 gets as much shit as it does, because on that game you're essentially chaining together iframe moves to stay alive, when that's the exact same thing you do on Ninja Gaiden 2. The difference being is the combat in those games is just non-comparable, because it's such a step down. The enemies are just nowhere near as fun to fight. It's such an inferior game. But objectively, on paper, when it comes to the higher levels of play, when it comes to surviving on your master ninjas, on your ultimate ninjas, you're doing the exact same thing. And it's interesting to see these little bits of dissonant thought, where this is fine, that's fine. I'm not going to say double standard, because that implies that there is a standard, and I don't think there is. It's just a lot of people that don't maybe see the, the inconsistencies in their way of thinking. And that was Iberian Realm forums. If you've never heard of it, it's the site where all the best Ninja Gaiden players went and shared videos and thoughts. And on that site back in the heyday, it was all where the best players were. So if you wanted to learn something about those games, that's where you went. And that's the place that introduced me to, people like Shinobi, people like Bigalski, a lot of those great players. And it's funny, you don't really see too many of them nowadays. And I don't blame them. Ninja Gaiden's name has been, run through the ringer and turned to shit. Like, there's a lot of people that don't even play Sigmas. Like, they don't like them, they don't understand them. They're all hardcore, standard Itagaki games rather than that other guy. Which I kind of understand. But I was searching. The reason why I'm talking about this, guys, is I was going to move into a no damage topic. I always look for Ninja Gaiden no damage stuff, and on the original Ninja Gaiden you see tons of it because it's a significantly more balanced game. But Ninja Gaiden 2, I think I saw one by a guy who doesn't even have a channel anymore. I just can't find him at all. Oh, don't waste your flash grenade there, folks. These birds didn't drop shit. I was so pissed. But Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma, you see a lot of no damage stuff. And I think the only reason that is, because there's always the endless argument of which is harder, which is kind of just, pointless at this, it's just fluff at this point. They're both really hard. One of them has, less enemies, but they're all grab happy and insta-kill you. The other one has a ton of enemies that throw bullshit at you all the time. Which one do you prefer? But I think the reason why you don't see any Ninja Gaiden 2 no damage stuff is just because of it's the IS spam. It's how stupid that is and how much damage you take regardless of how good you are. And that's what makes me really sad, because I saw a playthrough on YouTube, and I never watched all of it, I watched a bit of it though, where a dude was doing it. He did like the first 4 chapters no damage. Like, I don't know if he used Nimpo, I think he used Nimpo, but can you imagine a playthrough like that? Anybody who's listening right now who's played Ninja Gaiden 2 on Master Ninja, can you imagine not taking damage in that game? Because I know I can't. And, I was never very good at it. Like I've said it, famously on this channel, that I'll never cover it, because when I beat it myself, I used a guide. And to me, what's the point? And it's why I'll always have respect for the person who made that guide. Because he taught me a lot about Ninja Gaiden, and he taught me how to survive, which was the most important thing. But I can't imagine a no damage run of that entire game. Which is why I would like to see it, but I know I probably don't have the skill nor the patience to do it. Because there's so many parts of Ninja Gaiden 2 that I hate, and I hate it passionately. Because I have a love-hate relationship with the Ninja Gaiden. Like, I love them when I'm not playing them, and I hate them when I'm playing them. It's really funny. Like, I've got a Ninja Gaiden Sigma guide on this channel, and I think Sigma's amazing, I really do. I haven't played Sigma 2, but Sigma 1 just, it made Ninja Gaiden a lot more accessible to play. Like, if anybody's played the original one for the Xbox, that game is hard, because the checkpoints are just horrific, and, there's a lot of really weird puzzle stuff in it, and traversal stuff, and you just wonder, what the fuck is this game? And I think Sigma really stripped that down, stripped that clean, and made it what it is. And I was hoping that Sigma 2 would do the same thing, and it didn't. It got rid of a lot of the things I really like about Ninja Gaiden 2. But if anybody knows of a no damage Ninja Gaiden 2 run on YouTube, Master Ninja, please feel free to share it, because I'd love to watch it. Because there's certain parts of that game that I remember just being completely hellish, and I'm curious how they do it. Or how they would approach it, because at that point, you can't even say, oh, that's just cheap, anyone can do that, because they clearly fucking can't. But I must be stickler here, folks. I don't want Sigma 2. If you know about Sigma 2, that's all good and well, but no incendiary shuriken spam, no bueno, Sigma 2 is significantly easier when it comes to getting no damage. It might be the harder game, it might be the easier game, that's, it's entirely up to you and your preferences, but it doesn't have the spam, and the spam is what makes that game hard. Especially it's hard to no damage. This sequence here, though, this is the Shining moment, the Castlevania 64 moment. There's a ton of dogs. You have to pick up 2 pieces of a puzzle and not get hurt by the dogs, which is so tricky. And the checkpoint is all the way back at the door you entered in, so if at any point you're getting too nervous or you don't want to have to redo some gameplay, just run all the way back. It's definitely one way of doing it. Oh, there's one. They're just... I don't like them. Don't like the dogs. I mean, this area is perfect for what it does. You know, it's an area that I'm a grown-ass man and I still feel afraid in it. So it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's just I'm not the biggest fan of feeling that. Like, I can play Dead Space and not feel anything, but there's something about this. It's that, like, atavistic, you know, childhood, primal, lower brain thing. Like, there's something here that just invokes fear in me. Oh, and speaking of, guys, I'm going to run back to the door now. And I'm going to repeat what I've said previously. I could have edited this out to make it look like I didn't do this, but that's not how I want to be represented in this guide. You know, I want to show you these strategies and I want to show you that I use them because they work. Like, if you're like a speedrunner or a signal segment, you know, difficulty kind of guy, then that's awesome. But I don't want to spend 6 hours doing one section unless it's something I truly, truly believe in, because that's not what this channel's about. You know, I can do challenging things, but I'm under no illusion that people are here to watch me do amazing, challenging things, because my philosophy on YouTube is people don't want to see that. You know why? Show me a single channel that has millions of subscribers that has nothing but expert, amazing, masterful gameplay. You know, it can't be done because it doesn't exist. Because that's a niche community of people who are modest enough to accept that A, people are better than them, and B, they actually want to watch somebody do something they can't do. Because we're so fucking selfish, we're so self-important, you know, we all think we're the best at something, like, and depending on the heights of that solipsism will depend on whether or not, you know, you can come to terms with somebody doing something on the internet. And you'll notice on every video I have, or any video you watch, there will be somebody in the comments, you know, trying to degrade the value of what somebody's done, you know, trying to be derogatory in some sense, and somehow make out that it's lesser than what it is what they're doing. And sometimes it can be valid and it can be observational, but for the most, it's just jealous people who, you know, can't accept that you're better than them, even if you're not, you know. Because there's a lot of false pretenses that come into making videos. You know, people seem to think that you're better than you are because the videos make you look better than you are. And I think this is a bigger thing in the Call of Duty scene. Or, for instance, Dark Souls 2 PvP. There's a guy who's a big PvP name called Peeve Peeverson. He's a nice guy. He makes some fun content. He's pretty big now as well. He's kind of blown up a little bit. When he first made his channel, he did montages of nothing but awesomeness. And then what would happen is people would come and watch his streams, and when he lost, which, you know, everybody loses, guys, it's just one of those kind of games, people would be like, oh, I can't watch this is shit. You know, whenever he uploaded something that wasn't him completely destroying, owning, and looking amazing, people said this was shit, and didn't want to watch. And it's just like, that's the pitfall that you face if you present yourself and you edit yourself to greatness. So you've got to be careful, guys, and I've always kind of mixed the two. I've tried to have showcases of awesome moments in like multiplayer, but I've also had moments where I've lost, or games where I didn't do so hot. And like with Dark Souls, I took a transparent perspective on my content. I showed you the losses, I showed you the wins, I tried to show you everything. And that way you could, you know, form your own opinions on whether or not you thought I was good, or you could, you know, if you enjoyed the losses and the wins, great. If you didn't, you didn't watch. And with Dark Souls 2, I haven't done as much, you know, PvP coverage, mainly because I don't like the PvP as much, but I'm going to try and do the same thing. But a lot of the fights in Dark Souls 2 are kind of fucking boring, so I am actually trimming a lot of content for the stuff I'm putting out. So I'm not showing you everything, and trust me guys, you're grateful I'm not showing you everything, because there are so many victories I get where the person I'm fighting either doesn't fight back and it's just a stun lock boring kill, or Like, I injure them, they run away to heal, and I hit them with a Forbidden Sun and one-shot them. And don't get me wrong, those can be good every so often to put in, you know, in between bigger fights, but I had a session where that's all I got, and who wants to watch that for 20 minutes while I talk over it? Like, it gives me nothing to say. That right there is a godsend if you can get them on that spawn, the grenade there, and then you can finish this dude off. And once he's dead, you no longer have to kill any more dogs. I think you're good until you get to the door, and then that's the end of the level. But as much as I dread this sequence, and as much as it gets to me on like a primal level, I did this in about 2 to 3 takes, so it went really smooth, and I'm pleased about that. You can also, this is completely optional, you can walk around this place to try and get more treasure, but be aware, whenever you pick up shit like this, it tends to spawn another dog, or wolf, like him, who, he could have ruined the run just then. Luckily enough, I was in the mood, I was in the zone, I didn't panic, I put myself in a spot where he couldn't get to me, and I was like, fuck you, dude, I'm getting out of here. And he tried, look at him, he's a trier. Oh, and they can open the fences, so I did not put myself in a spot where he couldn't get to me. But luckily enough, my shotgun is my boomstick, and they did not survive it. But that is the end of this video, folks. Another tangent-heavy video, so if you're here for just gameplay speak, probably not what you're too bothered about. It's going to be a mixture of both in the preceding commentaries, you know, because that's just my style, that's how I like to be perceived, and I think that's what makes the videos the most fun. So yeah, thank you for watching, you take care now.